Oh, you fucking mug. I can't go live on Twitter. Fucking Musk. I don't give a shit, Lex. Well, that ends that.
That's okay.
Alright. Coming through okay? Alright. We are back. Films and Fandoms. It's Kaylee and Lex. How's
And
it for you?
I am going to do something real quick. You can't stop.
Actually, no, I realized I have something I gotta do too. But no, that's not. Oh my god, why? Oh shit. Okay, shit. Why can't I share it? God fucking damn it! Can I share? Why can't I share? Can I share? God damn it! Well, that's something I'm gonna have to fix for next time.
I retweeted it.
Wait, I didn't see. I didn't actually see what it was.
And I just tagged you.
Okay.
Just because why not?
All right.
I know I'm crazy.
All right. Let's actually get on with what we're supposed to be doing. So we're gonna be. All right, so I'm back with Alex, and we're gonna be talking.
Finally.
Yes, finally, we've had. Let's just say we've all had shit going on, and we'll leave it at that. Wow.
I'm drinking sweet tea.
Me too. I just realized my camera is angled kind of funny, but it's too late to change anything, so we're gonna roll with it. So tonight we are gonna be talking for the first time Leverage Redemption Season 1, Episode 1, The Too Many Rembrandts Job. Now, not only is this the first episode in the sequel series to Leverage, but I actually have a personal connection with this episode as I recently went on a trip to Boston for my birthday, and I happened to explore the two places that they mentioned in this episode, and I'll get more into that when we get to talking about that. But first, as tradition, a bit of a summary before we get started. The Leverage team comes back together to support Sophie after the loss of one of their own. To help Sophie, they end up helping lawyer Harry Wilson get back at his old boss for selling opioids to high-risk communities. So shut up.
That's not why I'm laughing.
Oh, I thought you were laughing at me fucking up.
No. Evil little lawyer man.
Evil little lawyer man. That's a bit later.
I know.
But
I'm sorry, it just popped into my head.
In this episode, we are going to be talking about the opioid epidemic, which is still happening to this day, I believe.
It's sad.
And it is sad. I personally don't know anybody who got involved in that community, or not involved in that community, but I don't know anyone involved in that personally, but I know people who have, and it sucks. But continuing on, our director for tonight's episode is the one, the only, our friendly nemesis, Mr. Dean Devlin.
We love you. We say
do
it with love.
We do. Even though you gave me a panic attack in front of my mother at ElectriCon.
But the fact that that man knows I exist
And knows I exist technically because I
because
have
of this fucking podcast.
Yes.
That and
And
also
I'll probably get more into that later.
that
once
and my favorite actor who I love and I want to be like when I grow up. If I grow up, Christian knows I exist.
Yes, he does.
I
And
cried.
I hug him, which
I cried.
I might pull up some photos and videos later.
Okay, random question.
Sure. Yeah.
What does he smell like?
I'm gonna be honest, Lex. I was not smelling the man.
Sorry, I just had to ask.
I was a little too starstruck to freaking smell him. And we're moving on. Our writers for this episode is Mr. John Rogers, Mr. Chris Downey, Mr. D. Devlin again, Mr. Mark K. Franklin Williams, and Matthew Akumura. Our special guest for this episode is Reed Diamond as the mark of this episode, Mr. Fletcher Maxwell, and Lucy Taylor as Alexandra Bly, who we'll get more into later.
Yep.
So this I actually appreciate that the first episode, because I watched this when it first came out. Well, we both did, I believe. We both watched it when it came
I
out.
waited. I waited until it hit midnight and it hit on on the app that it was on.
I might have been working.
Yeah, you were. Yeah,
working.
you were working, and I stayed up until midnight, and I watched the first 3 episodes in one night.
But yeah, no, I thought they dropped the first half.
Yeah,
differently for season 1. They dropped all the episodes at once.
Yeah,
well, the first half.
Yeah, I watched the first 3 that first night. Because they dropped the first 8. They dropped the 8 episodes between 2 days. They dropped the first 4 that morning, and then in the afternoon they dropped the latter 4. I watched the first 3 like the moment it dropped on the app, and I cried.
Yeah, 'cause, I mean, this.
When I saw Elliot again, I bawled my eyes out.
Yes, because like we get, but can we give a shout out to Miss Gina Bellman for this opening scene? Because my God, did she portray grief in a way that
and this one after, I've lost people close to me.
And part of the reason why I've been kind of
that's also kind of why
is, and I'll say this, I recently lost my grandfather.
I lost my grandma too.
Yeah, that's what you said. So like we both lost relatives.
Yeah, and I was still grieving. So we were watching this episode. Was rubbing literal salt in the wound, and I literally had to pause it and cry.
Yeah, so I appreciate Leverage for tackling stuff like that. But also, it shows grief because when it showed Nate dealing with his grief of losing his son, there was a lot of anger.
Oh yeah,
like there was anger with the grief.
Yeah,
which isn't the most healthy response, but it's a natural response to.
Yeah, well, it's part of the grieving process, anger, and he was also kind of in shock too at the time.
Yeah.
And then with Sophie, she's dealt with the anger. Yeah. She's dealt with like the first 4 levels of the grieving process. But now it's like he's finally gone looking at his gravestone. He's like, he's gone.
Yeah, and now.
And I can see that on her face.
Yeah, it's not, I don't think it's necessarily at the acceptance part. And again, the cycle of grief, it doesn't necessarily go in the same order and it doesn't look the same for everyone.
Oh yeah. I can attest to that. I still get kind of pissed when I think about her. And then I get really upset when I start to cry.
Yeah, and that's a perfectly natural like response
Especially,
to that. It's
uh,
not healthy to keep that up long term, but
yeah, especially since
it's
her birthday was a few weeks ago, and
yeah.
she passed shortly after her birthday.
Oh,
So yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And so moving on from the grief discussion,
But
just so
I can see where Sophie's coming from in this moment of like, yeah,
yeah,
when
and
she's looking at his gravestone, it's not a place of sadness. It's like, I know you're gone. I can still
yeah,
feel you, but
and she's switching out the white rose.
I'm trying to live life now in honor of you, of what you would want me to do.
Yeah,
And I love that.
and I love just Elliot then coming in with like, or Sophie saying grifter, then Elliot coming in with the hitter, and then Hardison with the hacker, and then Parker with the thief. Then you can see like the lockpick key necklaces, which is my
I
favorite detail.
Oh shit! I don't have my lockpick set. Fuck.
Oh yeah, I forgot you have a lockpick set because you're Parker, apparently. But,
Yep,
yeah,
and I won't go into that story as to why I have that.
yeah, we'll keep that between us for now. But what I do love is after like Parker, and then it zooms in on Nate's gravestone,
That's
like it
adorable.
just your mind, and then the classic, bird's eye shot, and Sophie being the one to walk away.
And I didn't realize this, but that was kind of her symbolically stepping into the role of team lead by doing
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, she just hadn't realized it yet.
Yeah, but we know, and I didn't catch that the first time I watched it.
Yeah, I love that they expanded into like Leverage International, and they made like what Hardison
I
had said
love
at the
that.
end of Leverage a reality. Because if you remember at the end, Ed Hardison said like,
I have an
crews
idea.
from the world are gonna wanna what
I just had an idea because you said
what
it's Leverage International now. I'm like,
it is.
so they have, so they have probably have a team in Scotland, and they have a team in Ireland, a team in Ireland probably too.
This wouldn't have anything to do with you watching Outlander before this, is it?
Nope. Yes.
I knew it.
I mean,
I
Dean,
also
there's an idea for you.
oh my Dean, you're gonna break the fandom if you do that. Please don't. Or more like break Alex, but that's beside the point.
Yep.
But anyways, I'm glad that they expanded so there are these other teams in other locations. And I think well, we have one so far, like we have I want to say there would be like East Coast. I feel like there might be like an East Coast, West Coast, or no. I'm trying to think where I know the two for sure that I'm remembering is there's one leverage team in the UK, which we'll see towards the end of season 2. There's one in London, and we also have one in South Korea, which I'm glad that they 'cause honestly I'm glad that they put a leverage con artist in, though I did actually read recently that the actress who played the thief in Leverage Con Artist actually passed away.
That's sad.
Yeah, so but I still think it's cool that they did that and expanded the universe to make it more than just our team.
I did a thing. Don't
Oh,
yell at me.
Jesus, woman. I can't with you.
I had to.
Anyways,
I
I
had
also
to.
love that Elliot's now managing food trucks and specifically hiring veterans to man those food trucks.
And I love the fact that um the cool thing is that back to the title of this episode, the Too Many Rembrandts Job.
Mhm.
Rembrandt was an actual legit artist. I looked him up, and I'm like reading into it. It's actually really interesting. And he
Do
had
you not realize who you're talking to?
I know. And there were 3 paintings of his that had been attempted to be stolen from the art gallery. 3 of them. 1 was actually stolen.
You're cutting ahead of what happens.
I know. But yeah, I actually dug into this, and I was like, "There's no way." I thought this was like.
I'll share, or I won't share it, but I'm gonna have it pull it up later when we get to that point.
But yeah,
but yes,
I
Rembrandt
love
did
this.
that, and I'll go more into that specific heist.
But the fact that it was like it's based off of like a legit artist, like an actual artist, like
Actual heist.
Yeah, but the fact that they could have picked anything, but the writers picked this one. It's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, I also go in that. I'm also glad that they have Hardison basically doing humanitarian stuff, because
I love that boy. That
I
boy is
do
awesome.
too. It's kind of sad that we don't get much of Hardison this season and season 2, and most likely.
But we do get somebody.
Yes,
who will literally actually a mini version of him. I love him.
What I love is that even though Aldous Hodge, God bless him, has become too famous for leverage, which don't get me wrong, absolutely for him. He deserves all the flowers, all the love.
My stuffy Hardison
in the world. And I'm thankful that they were able to incorporate, like they were still able to get him in for a little bit of leverage.
A little bit of here and there, and it fits perfectly.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing is they could have very easily like just written out Hardison, as in like he like is done, but no, he like is doing bigger, better things.
Yeah,
because he's that good. And that also shows his growth as a character.
And I love
because
that.
Season 1, Alec Hardison was a cocky motherfucker. Who thought Elliot basically says
true. To be fair, that is true.
An adorable cocky
but I will say, season 1 OG Leverage to season 1 Leverage Redemption, there's a big growth period for him, and I love it, and I'm proud of him, and he's just incredible.
Yeah, and that also is a testament to how good of an actor Aldous Hodge is. Given that you can have this, he is a badass. If you see him in Cross,
I'm just now watching that, and holy shit,
the interrogation scene.
Hot damn, sir.
But what's funny is every time I see like any Aldous Hodge love regarding Cross, I'm so tempted every time be like, yeah, we been knew. Where the hell were y'all? Like we've been known since 2008. Aldous Hodge is a freaking master at acting.
Yep. Let's continue before I start laughing hysterically.
And also, we got Age of the Geek. And I want to point out, Elliot says, Age of the Geek, babe. No doubt about it. He says, Age of the Geek, babe.
To Baby Hardison. Like, to her face.
No,
he did briefly kind of imply it later on to her.
Later. I'm talking, yeah.
But yeah, the fact that he said it, he freaking said it to him. I was like, sir.
Yeah, I was like,
I'm like, Elliot, that's not your line.
If we're not supposed to ship the OT3, then what the fuck was that? But that's me being an OT3 shipper. Carrying on. I also love that their like love languages kind of came through because how Elliot shows his affection is through cooking.
Food.
Yeah. So he offers to cook Sophie some brunch, and Parker then offers to steal something,
Which
which is
makes her
very
smile.
perfect.
That makes her smile, and it's adorable.
Oh yeah, no, it's funny. You see Sophie's that's good wide like, oh, like no, and then ours and the yeah, that is it. Like that is just the thing they need to get Sophie out of her funk.
Yep.
And then we go to the Boston Museum of Art, which is the real museum in
Boston.
Boston. Now, let me find. I think I have some. No, that's not what I wanted. Where's my photos? Photos. Photos. There we go. I think I might have some pictures.
But yeah, the fact that they reincorporated Boston again, I may or
Nah,
may not have giggled.
I forgot I didn't take many pictures. But, anyways, I was actually recently at the Boston Museum of Fine Art. And the one thing I will say is that the lobby looks different. However, the galleries we see are really freaking accurate. And what was funny, I was watching this episode the other day, and I'm looking at the galleries, I'm looking at the paintings, and I'm like instantly transported back to when I went. And I'm looking at the paintings. I'm seeing familiar faces because I may not be good with names, but sometimes I'm good with faces if I see it enough. So I'm looking, and I'm like, and I know I remember the red because it was like a wine red.
Yeah, almost a little bit almost like a light undertone of
And
like pink in certain lighting.
yeah, I pause it. I'm looking at the paintings, and I'm like, motherfucker, I was in that gallery. Dead ass. Texted Lex, be like, wait a fucking minute, I was in that gallery.
And I may or may not have Googled
That's
it.
my is that I went to the Boston Museum of Fine Art.
I may or may not have Googled it after you texted me, and I looked it up. I was like, "Yep."
It looks the got because that's how it's set up. I don't have my map anymore, but uh, yeah, the galleries are accurate. And what no, that was I have a funny I will share this story because it's hilarious. So I was in like the ancient Greek part, and I was looking at some vases, and minding my business, just looking, and the security guard comes up to me. It is like, hey, where are your parents? I look at him. I'm like, I'm 22. Yeah, that's how long it's been. I'm now 20 fucking 2. But like he's like, oh my bad, I'm sorry. I
I'm
thought
25. I hate you.
yeah, but seriously, that was just funny. It's like kind of like no, I'm no foul. Like you're fine. And he kept apologizing. I'm like you're fine. Like you're just doing your job. Like I'd rather you question than just assume. So that's my funny story. Carry on. This is also when we meet Harry Wilson, played by the super talented
Super goofy.
Dr. Robbie himself, Ben Carson.
Noah! And it was a freaking librarian's kind of mini reunion.
Was Reed Diamond in Librarians?
Christian. Beth even made it. Yeah, Beth even made an appearance on the librarians.
Yes, that's right.
And then Noah.
Yeah, Noah, Christian, and Beth were all on the library.
That's why I say it's a mini reunion between the three of them.
Yeah, I just don't know.
I giggled. I was so
They
happy.
made Minority Report. Oh, I forgot he was in White Collar.
Yeah, no shit.
I didn't remember his face. Yeah, no, he wasn't in Librarians, but so yeah, but Sophie picking up on the tea as soon as she heard Harry, Maxwell, and the museum
Her little
get
light bulb was
bit.
going off in her head.
Yeah, she's like, "Oh, drama,"
You tell.
which is a mood because I too am a nosy bitch at work.
I can't help it.
Look, you can hear some interesting conversations at an airport.
And I just noticed that you have new headphones.
I had these last time.
No, you had pink ones.
I did not have pink ones.
Yes, you did.
I had these not these ones, but I had ones for a while.
But yeah, at one point you did have pink ones. I remember that.
For a while, yeah. And so yeah. Also, I have to point out, I love Hardison and Parker's love.
I have that.
Adorable.
I have that. I have the pretzels love, and I don't know what to do. I mean, this man gave me a freaking lockpick set. An 11 box set of DVDs.
I forgot it was Nico who gave you the.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. God, it was him that gave you that. But also, Parker being a babe with the wiretap. And there's a shot. You see Harry is laying down because Elliot knocks him the fuck out, which was hilarious. And the way he just goes down.
I loved it.
And that's our first damn it, Hardison. Which I love because that's a classic. And I got to hear it in person because someone had asked Christian Kane at ElectriCon to say, damn it, Hardison. And what was funny, he like stood up and he like chest out, like did the
and then when I watched the con video, the con footage. Yeah, when I watched the con footage and I got to that panel, I had to pause it. I was laughing so hard.
Imagine how I fucking felt. I was there.
I know. And you met the man.
I did. And he remembered.
That man knows I exist.
I tried getting you a video. I'm sorry.
I know.
Swamp womp. I'm sorry.
Eventually I will meet him. Hopefully.
We'll see. Also, Elliot taking care of a hungover Hardison because Hardison's a lightweight, which I think is funny. And I love that.
Can we talk about the little hangover cure that he gives him with the raw egg?
No, that wasn't raw egg. He just brunch.
No.
All right, there was some like fruit, and then he put in Alka-Seltzers in a cup of water.
There was one shot where it was a raw egg, but the up close was the Alka-Seltzer.
I'm pretty sure the raw egg was way back in Leverage. Which I wouldn't be surprised if the dumbass actually ate raw eggs, but that's beside the point. Sophie, as always, reading the mark like the queen she is. And I love that Nate had like a shed in the back where he did his work, and then immediately upon seeing said shed, Hardison makes fun of Nate for having outdated software. So this is where I get to shine because the heist that is mentioned, the Gardner heist, is a real heist that happened. And it's a real heist that happened in the 90s. And Parker is actually correct in saying that it's kind of an overrated heist, and it had strong
Mhm.
results, but amateur technique. And if you watch the documentary, um, this is this is a this is a robbery, the world's greatest art heist. And so I'm gonna share this. This time I'm gonna do that. I actually do want to show this because this is something actually cool. Share screen. Can I just do? I'll just share the tab. I don't need to share audio. But so this, I don't know if you can see, but if I zoom in and then setting closer, I don't know how well this is going to focus, but you see what it says underneath.
Nothing's happening.
What? Oh,
Took a second.
sorry. Anyways, you see what it says underneath or at the bottom of the painting? It says
Cool.
Rembrandt. You want to know where this is?
Where?
In the Dutch room, which is the actual room
That's so
that
cool.
housed the storm on the Sea of Galley. So that is where I stood, where one of the greatest art heists of all time took place, and stood where the real Rembrandt's Storm on the Sea of Galley was.
Yep, the one that was stolen. But
That's not the only.
I want to know if they ever actually like figured out who did it, and like
There's so many theories, which actually comes into play for the grift that Sophie decides to do for this episode. So, for more information, so in 1990, so this heist takes place in the 1990s. So the paintings that were stolen were the concert by Vermeer, uh, two Rembrandts, The Storm on the Sea of Galley, and A Lady and Gentleman in Black. You have a landscape with obelisk by Flank Che Tortoni by Manet, a self-portrait by Rembrandt, La Sorte des Présages by Degas, Cortège aux Environs de Florence, Degas, Program for an Artistic Soirée 1, Degas, Program for an Artistic Soirée, Degas, Three Mountain Jockeys, Degas, an ancient Chinese gu, which looks like a vase or like a candlestick almost, and a French imperial eagle finial, which is the thing that goes
ooh,
on flagpoles.
pretty.
Why I say this heist is interesting because now this is stuff I remembered from the documentary. So what's interesting is all most of the paintings were cut out of the frame. So these guys probably didn't know what they were doing, yet they stole 13 pieces of art and got away with it. But yet they were sloppy.
Well,
'Cause
and
the heist took 80 minutes.
I think from the picture of the Rembrandt that you showed of the empty frame, from what I could tell, it was like secured to the wall, like probably nailed into the wall. So that's why they cut
Yeah.
it out of the frame.
I mean, it could have been. I didn't look close enough.
No,
There was
from
this
what I could tell, it was nailed down. And I
I would
apologize.
think help myself. But yeah. But, so yeah, interesting little fact. So uh and then we get our first steal a stolen Rembrandt, which everyone had the same reactions. I think the audience did watching that episode. or watching that moment, being like, yes, the
Yeah.
con is on. It gets it pumped up, and that's how you know the episode. I know what you think the con is on, which is what Hurley says in later episode. I know,
Yep.
but I also find it interesting that the first scene we see of Sophie and Parker, you know, getting ready to like essentially rope in the mark. Sophie is immediately like, okay, this is how you want to do this, and you don't want to do this. And Parker's like, yeah, I've been the roper for 8 years. Like, I know what I'm doing. And then Sophie realized, of course you were, because it's
Hmm.
just instinct for her to teach, and she's used to having to help Parker
Yeah,
through
but now
these.
Parker's kind of a master at this point.
Yeah, she is able to do it herself, which I think is also growth on Parker's part, and how much out of the game Sophie's been.
I'm so
Through
proud. I am so proud of her. I'm so
I
proud of
know
Parker at this point.
Parker is so. I love Parker. I wish Beth Reescraft was able to be at Electric Con, but unfortunately, she had to cancel last minute. So I hope if there's an Electric Con 2, she is able to make it. And maybe Aldous too. That would be fun. Seeing the boys together again. And I also love how they advance the technology because Harson's talking about doing like 3D printed forgeries
Hmm.
and how he uses like this AI program to replicate brushstrokes from famous artists. I mean, that's pretty cool.
I know, but
And I
at the
love how
same
Elliot's
time,
like, what the
but
fuck?
at the same time, there's more room for error if you use computer
Yeah,
generation.
yeah. But but I also love how though Harrison also or that's the next thing pointing out is you kind of got a reminder of why Hardison and Elliot started this. So it's almost like a throwback to the pilot when
Hmm.
Hardison says, like, I'm too good, like I can't retire. Like I had a good time, like I
Yeah.
can't retire. And Elliot, even though he goes up to Nate and says, what happens when you fall apart again? Like you need someone to, make sure that doesn't happen. And Elliot, when they're telling Harry, Elliot says, I had, anger issues I needed to work through. But I love how Hardison phrased it is like us, we happened, which is implying that like neither one of them would be where they're at now, helping people if it wasn't for each other.
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful thing,
I mean,
especially with the
that goes to show that they are all part of the same quilt, basically. That
yeah,
one can't exist without the other.
and that's also what I love about the dynamic between everyone in Leverage Redemption is even though Hardison is away for most of the season, you still get that dynamic between Hardison or between Elliot and Parker that shows, how much they've worked together over the years. Because, there's 8 years of stuff we haven't seen.
Yep.
And a growth in thoughts and cons that we didn't see. And I think that's the relationship between Elliot, and Parker really shines. But when you add all three of them together, that's where it shines the most
Yep.
because how well they bounce off of each other. So carrying on, I also love how the little detail of Hardison smelling uh, the canvas because if you remember in the King George job way back in season 4 of Leverage, Sophie was teaching Hardison how to make a forgery,
Mhm.
and she had him smell the statue, if you remember.
Yep.
She had Parker lick it.
That was weird.
Well, it's Parker.
I know.
Hardison smell it, and Elliot felt the base of the statue. What? What, woman?
Felt the base. Child.
Whatever. I'm moving on. Yeah, so Hardison and Elliot cleared the room for the auction as like pros.
Mhm.
No, somehow Elliot plays a prick very well.
And it's oddly kind of hot.
Yeah, that was kind
I
of
don't know
funny.
why.
Oh, like it's you got worse than a deadbeat. You got Fletcher Maxwell. More than a deadbeat, he's a drug dealer. They're just like, motherfucker. It's like I was like, well, I'll take it for 2 million if he's throwing blanks. And then to get in like a pissing contest, and then it's like, you're gonna pay for this.
Mhm.
It's like, well, yeah, I can pay. Like my money's good here. I'm like,
So cocky.
Can we please get more cocky, Elliot, for the Caniacs, please?
Please. And maybe have him like go like full Oklahoma accent too, please. That was sexy.
See, okay, we don't need him to go full fucking Oklahoma. We just need him
Not
to go,
literally.
okay. There's a line
Yeah,
between
Christian, you know the line. Don't cry.
That's another story I'll tell once we get to the end of this episode. So another interesting moment is like Elliot and Sophie doing the argument in order to draw Reed in. And then I don't know if Elliot meant to take it too far. I think he was just playing the character like how Sophie would have like wanted him to.
Mhm.
But then I think he realized after the fact, after he raised his voice at her and saw how upset she got, because you see instantly he goes behind the wall and he immediately like stiffens up against the wall and is like, fuck. Like you can almost see the bunch of like, fuck, did I do it? Did I take it too far?
Yep.
He's instantly like, I need to go back out there. And Parker, which can we talk about Parker pinning her boys against the wall?
Hot.
As a queer woman, I appreciate it. Moving on.
I mean, even me as a straight woman, that was sexy. That was sexy.
Anyways, so I love that and then you see for a moment that like Sophie's like barely holding it together. And I don't think it's necessarily because like Elliot took it too far. It's the fact that I think she realizes like she forgot how it felt.
Yeah.
And because her thing is she takes from what other people around her, that's her thing.
Mhm.
And so she's using what she knows, which in this case, she is, you know, still a grieving widow. And it's like still a bit like sensitive because we saw her raise her voice at Elliot Hardison and Parker back at Nate's house.
Mhm.
Or Nate and Sophie's house, I should say.
That wound is still very, very much raw.
Because they were about to like I'll cook brunch. And I was like, yeah, like I'll go to the store. And so it was like, just stop. And like she instantly regrets it once she raises her voice. But sometimes, like I've even felt that with like sometimes when I've gone through hard times and it almost feels like you're not trying to call, and I don't think that's what Hardison and Elliot and Parker were trying to do.
Trying to
All they
snap
saw
her back
was
into reality, pretty much is what it
yeah,
was.
they saw someone, the dear friend of theirs is hurting, and that's how they know how to help people. Like,
Mhm.
or that's how they show, food and taking care of them. And that can be overwhelming for somebody still in grief who is used to kind of dealing with things themselves. I've personally experienced this where I've snapped at people I shouldn't have snapped at because I was in a deep, dark place.
Yeah, and I kinda went through that, and I'm
I was
still
so
kinda dealing with that, and so I can relate to Sophie, like, at a deep level, at this moment, and it's like,
yeah.
you're not thinking
It's
rationally
real
at this point.
yeah, it's
She
a real
she wasn't
honest
thinking
conversation.
rationally, and then when
It's a
she
real
realizes it, she's like, "Oh, I fucked up," and, like,
yeah.
steps back.
But,
Well,
like, none of them asked for, like, an apology. They just, like, let it go because they know
yeah,
she
they
didn't
roll
mean
with the punches, they know what she's dealing with because they are
it.
dealing with it too.
Yeah, they just probably dealt with it similarly, though I hope part of me is kinda hoping in season 3 they go into that a bit more
Same.
because that might be interesting, especially with the context of later, like, Elliot and meeting his dad again, like, Hardison and Parker happen to be away a bit more than they're used to, but, like, working through it.
Yeah.
How that relates to how they dealt with Nate's death.
Mhm.
That would be interesting to see. But, carry on. I also love well, we got Catherine Clive again. What
I love that.
yeah,
The
Ca
fact
yeah,
that
I love
that Dean brought
so
that back, I literally was so
Alice
happy.
White was brought back because when Parker's the auctioneer for the auction, she has a name tag that says White. So
Alice
Alice White.
White. Yep.
And I love I find it interesting that Elliot's playing a version of Nate, as it turns out, because he's playing for this con Will Gallagher, whose father is Irish mob, who
I totally
stole
didn't catch that.
or who gave him like a corrupt business. And
I love that, but it's also
love
kinda
that Elliot
sad.
notices that. But uh they also the reason why I think they went with like the gangster route and like the Boston mob route was because back in the 90s when the FBI were investigating the real Gardner heist, a lot of what they were investigating was the mob
Mm,
because they thought at the time that the only people who were capable of pulling off like that level of heist was the mob.
interesting.
It goes more into that into the documentary I watched, and you could look more into it in your own time. But yeah, Boston Irish mob was investigated, and if I remember the documentary correctly, there was coincidentally. So I don't know if you heard that. That's my cat's automatic feeder. But ah, shit. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. My yeah, shit. Okay. Oh yes. So around while the FBI were investigating the different mob families that were around at the time in the 90s, there were also coincidentally a bunch of mob related hits. Coincidentally. totally coincidence. Moving on. And I love actually Elliot's trying to open up and be like, like if you ever want to talk about it, I'm here. And so it's like, this is me talking about it, grifting. And I love Sophie's speech to Harry when he asks about Nate. And I think this is such a beautiful speech. And so, Sophie telling Harry that like he was a brilliant, a very angry man, and his family contained his anger for a while, but then his son died, and he didn't have anyone to contain that anger anymore. And then he met the team and was able to slowly like let go some of it. But by the time he fully let go of his anger, the damage had been done. And he burned too hot for too long. And of course, Harry, apologizes. And so it's like, don't be. At least he burned. Which again, I think is a very beautiful discussion about grief, especially dealing with someone who may not have been the best person all around. I still think it's a beautiful sentiment that like, someone you loved, no matter how like complicated it is, like the fact that they burned being the important thing, not the fact that they died, but it's the fact that they burned. Sorry. I'm gonna move on before I start thinking of personal stuff. And then we immediately cut to Elliot doing a Boston accent.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've heard someone with an Oklahoma accent do a Boston accent.
That poor boy.
He tries.
It was a good effort, but I'd give it a solid C minus. Sorry, bud. I'm sorry. I do a better Boston accent than you do, and I'm Midwestern.
He's gonna beat your ass.
No, he won't. He doesn't know where I live.
I don't even know where you live. All I know is Midwest.
Yep, and I
That's
do that
more
for
than
a reason.
I know. But also, Elliot, can we quit pitting marks against the palettes?
I love it, but it's funny.
Keep it to yourself. Keep it to yourself, woman.
Okay.
I know what you're thinking.
Nope. Nope.
We also got an updated Lucille, which I appreciate. This is what Lucille 3.0.
Yep. Because 2.0 got lit on fire.
Or is it with RIP, moment of silence for Lucille 1 and Lucille 2?
But yeah, literally, because remember, they light her on fire?
And no, they didn't. Well, so, okay. No, or actually, this would be Lucille 4.
No, because
girl, they just copied it everywhere. But
no, what they did to Lucille 2.0 was the EMP gun.
Yes, that was the EMP gun. Lucille 1.0 was the exploding.
Yeah.
Lucille 3.0, I'm pretty sure, got crashed in the season 5 finale.
Yep, it did.
So this is technically Lucille 4.0 with the new paint job.
Exactly.
And Lucille is now in Elliot's food trucks. And what's funny is Hardison Parker like being flirty, and then Elliot just being like, "Get a room." Like, boy, you've been living with him for 8 years. What are you doing?
Nothing.
What are you doing?
Nothing.
You're doing something. I heard a video playing.
I clicked on something. Just shush.
All right, moving on. But
Mm.
we got to talk about this fight scene between Elliot and who will find out the RIZ goons. Because it starts with the lights flickering, which instantly tells Elliot something's wrong, but then the comms go on the fritz. No, what? I'm trying to see. Canadian. It's a. I don't get it. I don't get it.
I will explain it to you later.
All right, fine. Anyways, and then like the comms going on the fritz, and Elliot has to be like, "We're going in," and Elliot's like, "Don't." Your cover's not blown, and I ain't down.
That was cute.
Yes. And I love though that Elliot comes up. He sets the painting down, says it all, but you see Blythe coming in. Which can we appreciate that the overarching bad is a middle-aged woman who goes up against another middle-aged woman?
What I thought was really, really weird and kind of funny and kind of creepy at the same time is that I share the same first name as the big bad.
Yes,
And I hated that. It pissed me off. Just a little bit. But then I immediately started laughing. I'm like, oh, that's freaking hilarious.
Season 3. Because Kaylee will be finding definitely.
Well, because in my head, I'm thinking every one of the actors had to say my name.
Well, yeah. It's funny. But what I love about that fight scene, though, is Elliot's cold read. Because it goes up, and I love how Blythe compares it to the situation where she's like, I work in a field of violence. And not knowing Elliot Spencer, well, it's a bit like not knowing Rembrandt.
I love that.
So what she's saying is, people in the art world typically know who
Rembrandt is, and people in the
field of violence
contractor basically is what their front is.
Companies, everything.
Yeah. They're a private security company in the field of violence, so they would know who Elliot is.
Yeah, and I love that.
He's got a reputation.
Yeah, and I love that. And then Elliot, at first, is like, "Can I not do this?" She's like, "I'm giving up already." And then Elliot gets that smirk and is like detailing like what he's gonna do to each person, how he's gonna win the fight. And he's like, "Fight's over. I'd rather just skip the bruises."
That was badass, and the way that he says it so calmly.
Mm-hmm.
1 was hot as hell. 2, that terrified the hell out of me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I would not want to be on the receiving end of that.
Oh no.
But that's also a little bit of psychological warfare that he's doing. It's a mind trick.
I'll try and make this story quick. When I was at Electricon, someone was heckling in the audience. I don't know who. They're in a panel, and Kane was on stage. And they said, I forget exactly, or I think it was about Kane not doing his own stunts. I forget what it was exactly, but then Elliot or Kane just looked at it. It was like, how about I show you right now? I'm sitting or something along them lines. I'm like,
Yeah.
please don't have to break up a fight.
Oh, because they didn't show the audio for the heckler on the film, but they showed his reaction. So I knew something had gone down, and I'm like, and it probably just a fucking
It was
heckler
for the audience.
just mouthing off.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Apparently, he must not have believed that Christian Kane could do his own stunts, where they forget he had a
Bitch.
song. I think that might have been what it was. I don't know. I forget.
Yeah, he had hurt his wrist and was in a brace.
Of the fight.
Yeah. But yeah, he was in a wrist brace, if I remember
Yeah, I
right.
think that he
Yeah,
his wrist
he had hurt
fractured,
himself. He
and
had hurt
apparently
himself
he
somehow.
was like at death too. I'm like,
Poor Kane.
hey, take a fucking vacation.
Or better yet, get yourself a fucking stunt double.
No, come on. What makes you think Kane's gonna want a stunt double?
I mean, he's an old man now, so it's taking longer for him to heal, so therefore he needs a stunt double. Just on standby.
Need John Rogers to bring back fucking Oklahoma and tell him when he's doing too much.
Yeah.
But
Or
anyway,
better yet, Dean, tell him when to back off.
mm.
And I say this with love, Christian. Honestly, if you watch this,
Yes.
I say it with love.
But why would you heckle a man who's admitted to beating the shit out of an abusive boyfriend, his neighbor's abusive boyfriend,
Mm-hmm.
and also wrote a song with his buddies about getting kicked out of a club for trying to start a fight?
Yep.
And apparently threatened somebody to say,
That was a Riley Smith reference.
yeah. And there's a story by Jared Ackles and Jared Padalecki. Apparently someone was trying to start shit with Jared and kick him over, took him inside, and Kane's like, or Jared was like, did Kane just fucking kill him? Because I came back and Jared was like, what was the dude's problem? And Kane's like, I don't know, but I told him if he messed with you, I'd beat his ass. Like, why would you heckle that man?
I mean, he's Texas born but Oklahoma raised, and you don't fuck with those people.
No, you don't. All right, carrying back on with the episode, the fight scene. Got to give my flowers to Christian Kane for that. That was amazing, and I love how he did everything that he said he would do.
That was
And then
badass.
it's like it's a lot faster in person, which, if I remember the person, is actually was it Kobe? No, it wasn't Kobe. It was Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
It was Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
I think there might have been a Kobe reference later or something, but it was that particular one was Michael Jordan reference. Though Elliot, when he goes in the van to pin Harry against the wall. Well, that's what he ended up doing. In reality, he was pissed off because he thought Harry was the one who betrayed him.
Mm-hmm.
Because he realized, like, cover's blown. Harry's the only one not outside of this whole thing. And Harry's like, what? This is insane. Like, working with the people is insane. And then his crash out when he's going into like why he's wanting to take down Fletcher Maxwell. And then it goes into his backstory more.
Yeah.
How, like, because earlier we had a flashback of like how Harry ended up where he is at that point. But then in this one, we see like it's Nate's son's death's flashback, but Harry's version of it. in this case, it was a client that Harry had inadvertently hurt, and he wanted payback. And I don't know if you noticed this detail, but there was spit on Harry's chin. Yeah.
But
And
yeah, also, can I briefly mention something? Because you know how Parker was like talking about like Elliot's army of food trucks?
Mm-hmm.
The thing that she says, like, oh, you mean your meat wagons?
Yeah, what you call it? Yeah.
That is a slang term for ambulances.
Elliot can check up. Elliot and I do all this traveling to take care, so we can
His
take care
meat
of.
wagon.
There's like food trucks, park, it's
Parker.
food.
Food truck. But yeah, the term meat wagon is a slang term for ambulances, and I still do it. I still use that term, meat wagon, when I see one go by.
So
I related to Parker so hard.
I wonder if she picked that up from Elliot, because Elliot let it slip, and then she just picked up on it.
Probably.
That seems like a very Parker thing to do.
Yeah. But yeah, I just thought that was hilarious, and the look on his face was priceless.
Yeah,
I loved it.
We got to get to the third act, which I like to call the reveal. So we're now in Act 3, and I love how you did this setup. Harry, goes into Maxwell's office, and they argue. Maxwell has his evil speech of evil. Evil speech of evil. Say. And then he's basically like saying how he's basically going to cover up killing Harry. But then he gets a phone call, and Maxwell, thinking, he's getting this big old payout from the insurance company for his burned paintings, because we just saw in the last scene Harry burning the painting, or his prize painting. And kids, this is a lesson in scamming from the person who's gotten scammed twice. Do not give your bank information over the phone for this exact reason. Because, then we got to set up the second part where we see that Parker. So Maxwell meets with, the insurance lady and the museum owner. And we get the reveal with the classic leverage theme that they not only fixed the Rembrandt, or Fletcher's prized Rembrandt, but by cutting the printing time in half on the other paintings, they were able to replace all of the paintings he had donated to museums with forgeries. And Parker, our lovely autistic child, well, I shouldn't say child, a lovely autistic woman, starts stimming. And I love how Hardison just goes over, holds her shoulders, and it's like, go ahead, babe. And she's like, so many rats.
And that's kind of, I mean, that was okay. This is so stupid, but so funny. I have to share this. Specifically, it has to do with space and how I got this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Where he says, I love you to the moon and back, with the little bow tie.
Dr. Who.
I know. And so my boyfriend and I were we went to the Cosmosphere in another town that I live in, and live near, I should say. And I was stimming so fucking hard. Like, I was so excited that he had to grab my hand and push it down because I was about to smack myself in the face. I was stimming so hard. And then and when we went into the big dome 3D dome room to watch a movie, I was stimming so hard I was rocking the chair back and forth because I was stimming so hard. I almost fell out of the chair.
That's admittedly what I was a bit like when I got to see Kane perform live at Electricon. But I was like, down like I was so freaking excited. And what was funny is I was singing along to like every song, and my mother, who's sitting beside me, God bless my mom, for putting up with me that entire weekend. But she was sitting beside me, looked over at me, and was like, "How do you know all the lyrics?" I'm like, "Mom, I listen to this songs like twice a freaking day." And yes, he did do the house rules. Yep, he did the encore. And what was funny was Gina had come up on stage, they're hugging and all that. And Kane then goes over and is like, well, because Gina's here, we might as well do the house rules. Crowd goes nuts. And then they start, the beat, and then he's like, there's a motherfucking, like, whose motherfucking house is this? And everyone's screaming, like, Kane! And then they get into the song. So he didn't do the bit for rule number 7.
Oh,
I was a little sad. I was a little bit sad. But I still had a blast nonetheless.
And you hugged that man. You hugged him.
I did.
But the fact that motherfucker knows I exist.
Yes, he does.
And he said he loved me, and I about cried.
He did.
I literally sat on my bed right here, and I bawled.
And said, it's good to finally meet you. And I died.
And I remember you texting me, and I could just picture that your hands were shaking.
They were shaking. They were shaking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it was when I got back to my seat. And I'm like, oh, do you put it on the podcast? Anyway, we're almost done. We're doing good on time.
Mm-hmm.
So Parker replaces all of Fletcher's painting or Maxwell's paintings. We also get a reference to Plan M, as Elliot in the flashback says, "We need a Plan M." I was like, "Why's it got to be Plan M? You know my feelings about Plan M."
I have that written down as like Harrison dies in Plan M. And that's reference to Nate, and I had to pause it because I was laughing so hard and I was starting to cry.
Damn it.
Yeah.
But love the gloat as always. And Harry gets to actually do his first gloat.
That was awesome.
Sophie's assistant. And they also got a red folder, which is apparently all of Maxwell's clients.
Yep.
So that was fun.
That was awesome. But this whole episode was from like beginning of the episode. You could see when we first meet Harry to where we kind of sort of get toward the middle of the episode. You can see that there's some evolution starting to happen. Mm-hmm. And I didn't pick up on it until I rewatched the episode. And then at the very end, you could see it. He's starting to change.
Yeah, because part of Harrison kind of, I think, sets this up purposefully when he reveals, like, what they did with all the paintings that they had to switch out. And I like his explanation. So we gave it to some of the homies.
And why in my head did I think?
And now they were able
in my head, in my my Caniac brain, I was like, Quinn probably got one. He probably got one sent to him for some reason.
You know what? That would be hilarious, but I wouldn't put it past him.
I mean, it's possible, right? Because I know for a fact that Quinn's probably on a leverage team somewhere.
or I wondered if he's more. I feel like he'd be more freelance though.
But he's working with one of the leverage teams probably at this moment. That's my guess.
Probably.
Doing something fun.
Um, but I also love then how Harrison's like, oh no, like we were able to track down some of the victims, and Harry's like, I couldn't find all of them, and Hart's like, no, like we couldn't find all of them. Like, you have to do more digging. Essentially, is what he's saying. And then you
Yeah.
see Harry's like head drops, and Harrison's like, "Oh, you thought you were done? Like, you've been doing shady stuff for a long time. Like,
Yeah.
it's
And then
more
I
or
like
you
how he's like he's like, you've only begun the process to redeem yourself.
yeah." And I love how Hardison. This is my favorite
And
redemption
it is
speech.
true. It's not a straight line, it's a process.
Yeah,
It's
and
like
that's
going to
what it
therapy.
redemption penance is a process. And I'm sorry, I need to share a link because for some reason I can't share the actual live. So I need to copy link. Shit. I just do that. There we go. Yeah, so there's that. And what I love about this is it go it, Hardison's speech, it's like redemption. Like not only is redemption process, but you got to put in the work. You got to show you change and put in the work because it can't be redeemed unless you show it. And then he brings Elliot into it, and he's like, "You see that cowboy over there?" As Elliot
Also a
punches him,
cowboy.
yeah. But as he punches the remote, um, and
And also,
but
quick little side note. I used that gif of him punching the remote
every time you're
a
pissed
lot.
off at
A
something,
lot.
yes,
Literally.
yes, I know, I'm
Literally,
the one,
he takes the remote and he's just like pushing the buttons like,
and then
come on,
punches
work.
it.
And he goes, and then I'm like,
But Parker
babe,
cracks.
put it down. Put down the remote.
Yeah, no, but hers is like you say, like how right there. I've seen him put his life on the line for people who would never know his name. And every day he wakes up, you know what he says? I still got more to do. And so like this isn't the like this is just the beginning, Harry.
And he's like, if he's not done with his redemption.
Neither
Talking
are
about
you.
Elliot. And he's like, neither are you. You've just begun the process. He's been in it for a lot longer, but you've just begun.
Yeah. And we also get canon Jewish Hardison.
I love that.
I know. I think that's actually pretty amazing
Yeah. Because he
because
said that his nana raised them
ran
in like
multi-denominational household.
yeah, including the Jewish faith, which is that's actually really, really sweet to see. But it
Yeah.
also shows that he was open minded to different religions,
Yeah.
which I loved.
Yeah, that's the one he found, but also it's really I think actually also part of the reason why I think like they went this route with Hardison is Dean Devlin and his wife Lisa are both Jewish as well. I believe so. Actually, yeah, I think he said it at a panel. He is Jewish, and I think his wife was also recently in a Jewish movie produced by Electric Entertainment. Well, a movie about the Jewish faith. So I believe she is also Jewish. Though again, don't quote me on that. I don't want to speculate. But Harson's saying that Elliot helps people who would never know his name. When we meet Elliot's father later in the fracture job in season 2, Elliot tells his father, like, you may not have gotten recognized for what you did, but to the people you saved, you're a hero. And for what it's worth, in my eyes too. Breaks my fucking heart every time I watch that. But I think that's an important parallel that needs to be drawn, because it I feel like, especially with a lot of like people who try to do good things, they get they sometimes get scrutinized for the publicity of the good things they do. And the fact that, in this case, Harrison saying, Elliot helps people who won't know his name, but yet he does it anyways because he knows it's the right thing to do and it's part of his redemption process. And I think that's a deeper conversation to have later, probably at the end when we talk about season 2. But this shows kind of where Elliot's at in sort of his arc. And the line that I think made the entire fandom cry, when Harry goes to Sophie and says he's not wrong. And Sophie says he's his father's son, referring to Nate. That made me cry.
I'm already starting to cry because of that, because it's like, it proves that
Like Nate saw
Nate adopted all 3 of them as his children.
Well, I think
Symbolically adopted him, specifically Hardison.
Yeah. Hardison, he more adopted as a surrogate son.
Yeah.
Hardison was more of a way to fix the mistakes he made raising Sam, or when he got to.
Mm-hmm.
And also got to fix the way his father raised him.
Yeah.
Parker, he adopted as his mentee and also surrogate daughter, because he knew he was he wasn't a good person, and he wanted to show her how to lead better than he did. Elliot is kind of an interesting one because I think there's more of a brotherhood between Elliot and Hardison, or Elliot and Nate, in the original series.
Yeah.
During the whole series, Elliot always acts as the muscle. Even when he is actually the muscle, he's sort of Nate's lieutenant. And there's a behind the scenes interview where Christian Kane actually describes Elliot and Nate's relationship as like, if Nate's the gun, I'm the bullet.
I love that.
So it's not really a father-son relationship between those two, but it is a place of not only respect, but it's a mutual thing. Like, Nate helps portray who Elliot's supposed to be portraying, and Elliot helps Nate to portray who he's supposed to be. Which is why Elliot's usually playing the power negative character, whereas Nate's playing the power positive character. And also the fact that, like, we can, this speech is like a lot of speeches that Nate used to give, which is why I think also Sophie said, he's his father's son. because it's like she saw a little bit of Nate in that moment. And then, I'm sorry, I just remembered a scene from a season, the fake psychic episode, the future job,
Mm-hmm.
the season 2. Nate tells the pregnant woman who is being taken advantage of, says that like you'll see him again, like she'll see her, you know, dead husband again and their son. And like maybe the way like Butter's Toaster like maybe says a phrase, but that he wasn't gone and that like he lived through his son. In a way, that's the proof because Nate was always the one with the speeches, and now it's Hardison doing the character building speech. And I think that's really not only cool, but I think it's beautiful. And the final scene we get, we find out the job's not done as Fletcher Maxwell's gone on the run to Panama. And I love their reaction how they all gather around the TV as the news article is playing. And they're like, and I think Elliot's one is like, what the hell is he running on? Like, we stole all of his money. Like, we stole, like, he has no money. Like, where is he running to? And then that's when Harry reveals that there was a super secret family account. And so they suspect that they gave Maxwell money to run. Because apparently it was enough to hide. And so Parker leaves it up to Sophie. And that's when Sophie declares that she did say one job, but that the job wasn't done. So the team now has to go to Panama to get Fletcher Maxwell. And that's actually where the episode ends.
Yeah. Kind of like a little bit of a cliffhanger. But
Yeah, a little cliffhanger, but it's almost like a 2-part premiere.
Yeah, pretty much.
Where, you know, part 1, you know, ended with Maxwell running to Panama. Episode 2 will have the team be in Panama. And those are the last of my notes.
Yep.
So I guess my final thoughts for this episode is I thought it was a really good introduction to the team, not only for like long leverage fans, but also for people who may have just been introduced to the universe, seeing the dynamic of the characters, seeing what the show is about. Even like Harry isn't a replacement for Nate. Like they're both completely different characters. Yet they both have this idea. They have similar ideas of Sense of the Past that they need to be redeemed from. Well, yeah, I guess Nate did have a little bit of sins he needed to atone for, and he did. But then the anger was the bigger issue with Nate. In this case, with Harry, it's the sins of his past, which ironically parallels more with Sophie and Elliot, who we'll see are actually pretty parallel this season when it comes to like their journeys about their past. And I think it's interesting to see the characters who we know the least about in these 2 seasons getting the most backstory. So, so do you have any final thoughts before I go into story time? So, okay, so story time. So part of the reason, so I'm still working at the airport, and one of my trips I went on last year. I actually went on a couple of trips last year. In April 2024, I went to One More Shot, which is a charity event in Birmingham, England. Yes, I went to England all by myself. I wish you were there.
Me too.
Where I got to meet Kane's good buddy, Riley Smith. Kane actually called during the concert, or Riley's segment of the concert. I'm sure they set it up, but I think he did say they
Definitely.
set it up during that, like for that specific time. But yeah, that was funny. Kane expressed his disappointment about not being, or his disappointment with not being able to, show up.
And
But
then
next,
and
and
then
then
she managed to get me a video.
I did. So funny story about that. Riley, so this is after the guitar showcase because the first night they had a guitar showcase.
Mhm.
So, everyone got on stage and was performing songs on guitars. So Riley was helping to break down the stage. And, I waited till he, had a minute and I went up. I was like, hey, I really enjoyed the concert, or I really enjoyed the showcase. Like you're amazing. Yeah, thank you. And then I said to him, I said, I have a friend, Alex. I have a friend, Alex. She wasn't able to make it because she's in Kansas. She didn't make it. She wasn't able to make it. But could you please make a video for her so that I could send it to her? It really make her day. And he's like, "Oh yeah," and that's how the video got made.
Yeah, and then shortly after that, um, like he and I were like tweeting back and forth, and I had mentioned,
Yeah,
"Oh, I'm watching like Freaks and Geeks." I was like, I remember when you were on that, and then like your progression as an actor is so good. And I was like, even you were even on an episode of Leverage back in the day, and I'm like,
yeah, that
and
was
then
funny.
I just out of the blue just asked him after I tweeted that, and I'm like, could you follow me? And then 2 seconds later, ding, I go, son of a
You
bitch.
told me to follow me.
I've been bugging him. I've been bugging him.
I
But
know.
yeah, he followed me,
I
and then
did
I
earlier because
tweeted that.
I just found out they're doing the 911 spinoff,
I know in
and
Nashville.
they're doing a 911 spinoff that's set in Nashville.
Oh no, they need to
I
have him on it.
started it and said, "Hey, Riley Smith, looks like I found a new show you can guest on." Because I'm a dumbass. But anyways, then the next day after the showcase was the concert, and the cool thing about the concert was everyone went to the hotel bar, and we had drinks. I just had one drink, for the record, and it was a hard cider. And Riley and I somehow managed to get in like a circle with Riley. And we just started talking for like there was like other people there that were talking to him. It was like a group of us talking. That's what I mean by a circle.
Yeah.
And we literally talked for like 3 hours over like a drink. And like we just got to talking about like life and film because it turns out Riley's a bit of a film buff like I am. And so he really appreciates the craft. And so we started talking about it and go back and forth on like directing. And we ended up demonstrating camera shots that we would use for like a particular scene, which involved us running around the hotel lobby. Not breaking nothing, I promise. We were like running around the hotel lobby,
That's
demonstrating
awesome.
what camera shots we would use. And no, they're like, if you ever need like, it's like, because like it was like we were in sync, which is the weirdest fucking feeling I've ever felt. Being
But it
in
was
sync,
adorable.
it was, and it was so much fun. And then all of a sudden, I looked at my phone and it was 3 a.m. I was like, "Oh shit!" So I called it a night and went to bed once I finished my hard side. But then the next day was autographs, and as part of the program or as part of the entrance fee, you get free autographs on the program. So I had him sign my program, and he put in my program, Kaylee, you'll make an amazing director. Keep on, Riley. And he signed his name, and I like died because I didn't see it till I got back to my hotel room. I was like, oh my god, like it was insane.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I just directed my first ever short film that's going to be shown next, like 2 weeks, like less than 2 weeks at a film festival, which is insane. Because if you would have saw me 3 years ago when I was depressed and crying every night, feeling like the absolute shittiest person I've ever felt like, and now it's insane. Like I never thought that would be possible. But then at ElectraCon, I was just going up to ask a question, and when you go up to do ask a question, it was the first panel of the night, Almost Paradise panel. Steve Devlin, Christian Kane, Mark Roskin, and Lisa, Dean Devlin's wife.
Yeah.
And I went up to the mic, and they tell you, like, oh, say your name and like where you're from, and like ask a question. So I go to Mike and I'm like, hey, my name's Kaylee. I'm from Pittsburgh. And I think I might have paused while I was trying to like gather myself because I was just nervous. And that's when Dean said, oh, by the way, Kaylee has an amazing podcast. You should check it out. And I'm like, oh, shit. I think I accidentally said oh shit into the mic. So I apologize. I was just freaking out. And I like freaking out with shit. Oh my god, I was expected to do that. But I finally composed myself. I asked a question. Okay, and moved on. I sat down. That's when I was texting you. You're like, oh, did you just talked about the podcast during the panel? And what was funny was after the panel, I went with my mom so we can like coordinate because she was up higher. So I coordinated with my mom, or I went up to my mom. She was like, holy shit. Like, holy shit. Like, he remember me. He's like, he remembered you. Like, we're both freaking out. But the coolest thing was people kept coming up to me
and asking about the podcast.
Yeah. I was like, oh my god. And so I was planning on doing this like back in like November, but things happened and I wasn't able to. But the fact that he did that, and then during our photo op, I had my photo op with Dean Devlin. And when I went up to hug him, and he hugged me and said, it's great to finally meet you. I was like, oh my god. And then we did a quick photo, thanked him, and then left. Freaking out. But then I had my Kane photo up. Went up to Kane, hugged him, and he said, and we did our picture. I'm freaking out because I'm meeting like someone I idolized for 5 fucking years. And before I left, he said, you should make t-shirts of your podcast. I didn't say, oh shit, but like, I mean, I was like, maybe.
And then you messaged me. You'd messaged me and said that, like he had said that, and I'm like, I can make that happen. I can make stickers.
I got t-shirt contacts. Anyways.
Yep, and I could also make stickers.
Stickers. I might have to ask you about the stickers later. I don't know how you get it for me, but anyways. So yeah, those are just some fun story times of what kind of happened recently when it came to, I guess, what kind of happened in between breaks. And I do actually want to try and get this back up and running again. I did a new background.
I like it.
Thank you. Needed to update it. And I want to try and be more consistent with this because I really enjoyed doing this and we both, I think, miss it.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's like we're so busy.
Yeah. And like we've both been dealing with like personal stuff too. Like I'm still at the airport and still trying to get into TSA, which is also insane to think about.
Yeah.
And actually the two actors in the film I directed, which is still insane to think about, are actually two TSA officers that work alongside.
Cool.
They're both, and so that was fun. Yeah, and then that was just a random thing. But the guy came out, was like, "Hey, there's a short film contest in Ohio. Putting together a team. You want to help?" I was like, "Sure, I can do whatever." And I was like, "I can write, direct, like whatever you need me to." He's like, "Well, can you write it? Can you direct it?" Like, yeah, I can try. And then it actually wasn't until a couple weeks after he initially said that I made the connection back to when Riley said that I'd make an amazing director. It actually happened when I was like working and I had that thought. It's like, son of a bitch. Like Riley saw something that I never saw in myself. And now I'm kind of making that a reality. And it's insane to think that it all kind of started with leverage. If you think about it. Because
yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, and you're, also moving on up and doing good things.
I'm trying to, at least.
Hey, trying something new. I'm still trying myself, so.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm actually actively thinking about pursuing a change in field of work that I'm doing, from going from dietary into more medical. But at the same time, I don't really want to do that because of all the medical shit that I've dealt with.
Yeah, that's understandable though.
But yeah, there's that fear, but also that excitement too.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's also trial and error.
Yeah.
Like you don't know how you're going to feel about something until you do it, type of thing.
Yep. And I think I'm overthinking it a little bit. But I might just try it for a month, and if I hate it, I can move on to something else.
Yeah. So, do you have any other final thoughts? Anything like that?
But I will say that they also brought back the roundy round in this episode. At one point, they brought back the swivel. Did you notice that?
Oh,
There's one shot.
I think was that when they were around 8th grade.
They did the roundy round.
Right.
And I love that.
Uh,
But
I miss the roundy
it's just
round.
it's just so beautifully written that it's like
It is. And
it's
I think this is
it almost feels like you're watching a novel, like a sequel book come
yeah,
to
and it's
life.
also a nice step up because, like there's like 8 years in between. So like setting it up perfect that like, you know, Harrison, Parker, and Elliot are now running, or Parker's running Leverage International, and that they've expanded so they have more teams. And Hardison, he's at the top of his game, which means he's too big for Leverage. So now he has to almost make a choice of whether, and this will be more in the next Leverage Redemption episode, where we see Hardison kind of discussing, him having to leave. And again, I think that is a great way to allow Aldous to do his bigger and better things. He has that DC money now. He's got that Amazon Prime money with Cross. Now he's like set.
I am so proud of
And
him.
I know. And I think it's very fitting that the act, like, life imitates or art imitates life,
Mm-hmm.
or like however that expression goes. Because like both Hardison and Aldous are both doing bigger
Yeah,
and better.
life imitates art is the saying,
Life,
and that is
yeah,
true with what's going on because
yeah.
Aldous' life is shifting and changing. He's got three different things going on, maybe 4 at this point, including his watch company that he's trying to balance.
That was a shock to figure out.
I know. And then he's also coming back into the Leverage world that he's been a part of since he was young.
I will say, I did get a sneak peek at season 3 at ElectricCon. I think I told you about this.
Yep.
The pilot episode, or not the pilot episode, the first episode of season 3, I believe it's called The Weekend in Paris Job. And I will tell you, they did the absolute best thing they could have done, because like the lights started flickering, and of course the audience starts freaking out, like, what are they gonna do it? Because they're talking about like, like you haven't had much update on like season 3, and then like the lights started to go down. It's like, wait, like what is happening? And then like the screen started coming up showing the scene, and it's like, oh my god, we're getting a sneak peek of season 3. And what was funny was like they said like there wasn't really a lot of filming, and so they asked people to put their cell phones away, and the whole fucking audience put their cell phones away, which is insane. But sneak peek
I'm so happy that Leverage gets a season 3. I just found out that 2 of my other shows got renewed for a season 3 and a season 2.
Tracker season 3.
Yeah.
I'm still worried about Almost Paradise.
It's up in the air at the moment. But
Librarian.
Librarian
season 2.
And then my favorite show, Fire Country, got renewed again for another season. They're getting a season 3, which I'm so fucking happy about. Yes, and then NCIS Origins got renewed for season 2. Like officially, like approved, like as of yesterday. So I have all these new shows, like getting new seasons and everything, and I'm so fucking happy.
I know. We're still waiting on a release date for season 3.
Now if only Almost Paradise could get another season.
I know. And Dean, please cast us. For the love of God, we've been begging. 5 years.
Please.
Mostly.
Even if it's just like a background character, like me reading a book, I would be happy with that.
No, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. Yeah. So I think that's gonna be all the story time for today. So to wrap up this episode, so the next Leverage Redemption episode is entitled the Panamanian Monkeys Job.
Who
So
came
we'll
up with the titles? That's what I want to know.
probably Devlin. I don't know,
Probably.
but as we wrap up, I want to. I have no idea what our next podcast episode is going to be. We'll have to discuss that off. We'll discuss that later. But I want to thank our sponsor, NAPCO.org, OSBA Systems. If you want to support the podcast, we do have a Ko-Fi, Films and Fandoms, and you can buy a copy, help support us. And we have a Discord. It's titled Films and Fandoms. You should be able to search for it. But yes, we have a Discord if you want to join it. Talk with us about the latest episode or your own thoughts. We also have an Instagram, FN Fandoms with Kaylee and Lex. We have our Twitter, FN Fandoms. Our Twitch, Films and Fandoms. We also have a Facebook, Films and Fandoms. This is my website, KayleeSantelActing.com. My Twitter, MissMovieFan_67. My TikTok, MovieFan67. Alex's Instagram, Alex_TheAlleyCat. If you want to follow her.
Then my Twitter's the same but without the underscore. And I'm also on TikTok as well under at Alex the Alley Cat if you want to follow me there.
And I also want to thank our friends at Ma Media Works, who also have some fun projects coming up. So if you want to check them out, see what projects they get up to. Because I got the inside scoop on something that I might myself be involved in. So we'll have to see. I'll let them reveal it. I don't want to be a spoil sport. But I think that is everything.
Mm-hmm.
Not going to do an opening song, or not opening or closing song, because copyright strikes suck. So we're gonna just ignore that so we don't get copyrighted. But I guess we'll see y'all in the next episode.